And welcome back into NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey. We got producer Chris Daughtry behind the scenes on today's show. We'll break down all the latest on the NFL, including, of course, the NFL Draft, which is rapidly approaching. But the number one story coming out of the NFL world today is on Jalen Ramsey, as he is now set to seemingly be traded. Reporting early this morning that the two sides are going to work together to get a deal done. Dolphins GM Chris Grier coming out saying, yeah, we're going to part ways. It's, Pretty Ricky kind of acknowledged the rumors on this one, and now it's there. So predictions, there's still no guarantee they trade him. There could be the old scenario of Ramsey doesn't find what he's looking for elsewhere. I don't really know what he couldn't find out there. Like, he already got a new deal from Miami this past September, so I think he'd be able to find whatever he's searching for in the end. Will the Dolphins trade Jalen Ramsey? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. 76% voting yes. I wonder if that number will continue to rise as we move along here on today's video. It seems like that's the path we're trending towards. The timing of when is also interesting. Saves the Dolphins more financial sense short term to do it after June 1st, but they don't get draft picks this year. And if the Dolphins don't have Jalen Ramsey, their number one corner is Cam Smith. It's a bad group, which makes – they also need defensive tackle help, maybe O-line help. They're kind of in a not great spot, all things considered. So will the Dolphins end up trading away Jalen Ramsey? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the pin poll and in the comment section of today's show. Early votes very much in favor of yes, Ramsey will get traded. Now, today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier, even for those hard-to-get playoff seats. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to kickoff. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets for the NBA playoffs and more. I literally just got an alert for tickets for Rangers as well. So if you want to go Rangers, Dodgers, or whatever it is, Game Time has you covered. Use their last-minute deals because you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, everything else in between. The all-in pricing feature shows your total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Download the Game Time app today, create your account, and redeem code CHATSPORTS Chat Sports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS Chat Sports for $20 off your first purchase. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. GameTime.co, promo code ChatSports. So most of you think Jalen Ramsey gets traded. So then to who? Where does he end up playing this upcoming NFL season? Get your predictions in for me in the comments section of today's video. Who do you think ends up trading for Jalen Ramsey? I think Ben was like, my Bucs need him. I think a lot of teams need him. Bucs not a bad destination, by the way. It'd actually be really fun in a Todd Bowles defense. Eagles, which they have two good corners. They need a third, but let Howie cook. Commanders. Let's see, San Francisco, Commanders, Seattle, Niners, Dallas, Cowboys. I have doubts about the Cowboys. It's not how they operate. Like, everyone falls for Jerry loves a splash. They don't make splashes anymore. It would be a splash. Make no mistake about that, though. It would be entertaining. Niners is interesting. Let's see what else we got. Let's see. My screen kind of resets. Niners, Dallas, Cowboys, Commanders, Minnesota. Let's see. Minnesota is actually a really fun fit. They're just so light on draft capital that it makes it challenging for them to do so. Bengals don't ever make big trades. They're not. They got to figure out the Hendrickson stuff. They don't want to add a big contract to Jalen Ramsey, even though I think they could use a corner. So get the votes coming. Who do you think ends up trading for Jalen Ramsey? How many round one trades end up happening this year? We will do a mock draft with a lot of trades, by the way. How many round one deals happen this season? We have had 0 so far, which first time in a really long time. We're on the verge, and I think we'll get there at this point, of no trades of the first round going into round one. There will be movement. There's always movement. I think in this year in general, I think the overall vibe is the early round picks, like once you get like past the top couple picks down to like the early teens, everyone would love to trade down. Nobody wants to move up. But I think once you get into kind of the back half of round one, and there's going to be a lot of disagreement on what the board looks like, you will have teams going to get their guy. I think the back half of round one could have some fireworks this year. I see 6 trades, at least 1 or 2 trades, 4. Teaser, I did 5 in this upcoming mock draft. And also, none of them were in the top. One of them was in like the top 20. They were all in the back half of round one. Now, we will get today's show going in just a little bit. If you are ready for us to start today's show, show it by liking today's video right now. We got 14 likes, which against about 14%. Kind of disappointing numbers. Those are rookie numbers. Let's get those numbers up. Like the video if you haven't already done so, please and thank you. Coming up on the live edition of NFL Daily, news and rumors, a lot of quarterback buzz. Something weird is going on with Derek Carr, by the way. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey trade talk. A mailbag, 2 ways to get on the show, hashtag NFL or Super Chat. And the 2025 NFL mock draft with a bunch of trades. All come live here on NFL Daily. We begin today's show with what else but the Jalen Ramsey trade conversation. Turns out Pretty Ricky, a.k.a. Slick Rick, was right again. The Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey are going to explore trade options. This was also was confirmed by Dolphins GM Chris Grier. And one of the better defensive backs in football, even though he's aging, is now on the trade block. Now, that doesn't guarantee a trade happens. Certainly feels that way. So, easy prediction for you. Will the Dolphins end up trading Jalen Ramsey? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's video. This was early this morning when, I'm sure a lot of us were asleep. I was still asleep for a little bit. Ian Rappaport, Dolphins and Pro Bowl corner Jalen Ramsey are mutually set to explore trade options, and it wouldn't be a surprise if he played elsewhere in 2025. Miami and Ramsey, due $25 million this year, could be parting ways. This was basically the confirmation of this report from Slick Rick on April 11th. What stands out to me, by the way, is the terminology of mutually set to explore options, which is what the Rams do when they traded away Jalen Ramsey and didn't get very much back for him, and makes me think that Ramsey will have some semblance of influence on his next destination, which could very well bring down the value the Dolphins can get back in a trade, even though they just paid him in September. Ramsey did play all 17 games this past season. The pass breakups, interception numbers, not as high as I think Miami would have preferred. Overall, I think he is still one of the better top-end corners. He's not, at this point, guys like Patrick Surtain, et cetera, have probably surpassed him. But everybody else, you can make arguments that Ramsey is just as good as those types of players. He is, wherever you want to rank him, got to be at least top 10 corner, right? So there should be some value. Now, the money is a factor here. The Dolphins, that traded before June 1st, actually lose $12.5 million of salary cap space. They need a bunch of money because they just paid him in September. The new team would have only a $9.8 million cap hit and a $21 million cash charge. So the Dolphins don't save cap space. They do save cash, short-term and long-term. The new team would owe Ramsey $18 million. There'd be a lot of dead money on that. So you're not paying a bunch of the cap in 1 year for him. You are paying a bunch of cash for him, though, and you'd be hoping to have a multi-year asset if you trade for Jalen Ramsey. Because of his age and everything involved here and the situation, I don't think the trade cost is that high. Ramsey turns 31 this upcoming season. He is expensive. He's not crazy cheap. The cap hit's pretty cheap. The money, the actual dollars you are paying him is not that cheap, though. Miami did pay him last September. So I don't think you have to do a new contract. It'd be kind of weird if you wanted a new contract. That wouldn't make much sense to me. But do make note, the last Jalen Ramsey trade was a third-round pick and a backup tight end. That wasn't very much, and that's when he was younger. I would question if the Dolphins get much more than that back, if they even get there. So who ends up trading for Jalen Ramsey? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Who do you think ends up making the deal to land Ramsey? It's the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Let's break down some top Jalen Ramsey destinations. Not in any order, just teams that I find intriguing. The Falcons. They have Raheem Morris. They need another corner. They are light on draft capital, which does complicate things a pretty decent amount there. But he, I think, is a good fit for the Falcons' current head coach. The Raiders, who I was going to get into, is actually the betting favorite, by the way. No third-round pick, or down a third-round pick, I should say, because of the Geno Smith trade. Obvious need at corner. This would be a really fun pairing, by the way. The Cardinals, a sneaky team. I wonder if Ramsey wants to go to more of a true, obvious top-end contender, which would make me question some things on that fit and alignment there. But Arizona could use a legitimate number one outside stud corner. One of my preferred fun ones, the Green Bay Packers, which would be entertaining because they could send Jair Alexander as part of this trade instead of package. Maybe you do it after June 1st and send future picks there. The Packers need one more guy on defense, I think, especially at corner. The dream fit, I think, maybe even for Ramsey, is the Ravens, who he kind of had interest in playing the first time around. Ravens don't often make big-time splashy trades like this, but this would be fun. And the funniest outcome, he just goes back to the Rams, who actually are in need of a corner. And they could go right back to the F them picks mindset and just rent him again. And even the Jags could be a fun, pick. They got corners, though, so I kind of doubt that one. The trade odds, for those of you who are curious, by the way. The Raiders at plus 400. The Cardinals plus 500. I don't really buy Dallas as a fit, but they're plus 600. Niners could be, but they've kind of made moves to spend less cash this year. If this were a year ago, I would put the Niners pretty high. They're plus 700. Commanders, who do have Marshawn Lattimore, plus 800. Lions are a super fun fit, too, plus 1,000. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier, even for hard-to-get playoff seats. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. It is the perfect time of the year to get going, whether it is the play-in or the regular playoff games coming up here in the not-too-distant future. NBA playoff basketball is always fantastic. Get last-minute deals and save up to 60% off buying those last-minute tickets, not just for sports, but concerts, comedy, theater, everything else in between. Zone deals let you choose a section, and then Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings in the process. The Game Time guarantee is this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app. Create your account. Use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create your account. Redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. Terms do apply. Let's talk quarterbacks here. And we're going to begin with Shedeur Sanders and the Giants. And kind of a late timing move, the Giants are going to hold a private workout with the Colorado quarterback on Thursday, which sounds like had kind of been in the plans for a while, but hadn't really been kept under wraps, for lack of a better phrase. Where Shedeur Sanders goes is in line to be one of the more intriguing NFL draft outcomes for round one. The Browns and Giants are in desperate need of a QB, at least long term. Maybe you can get by with Joe Flacco, which I kind of doubt, and Russell Wilson. But the Giants are not the most recent betting favorite for Shedeur Sanders. That is actually the Saints, who we will spend some time on here in just a little bit. The Steelers at plus 400, then Giants and Browns, then a big fall off to the Jets and the Raiders. So where Shedeur Sanders goes, I don't have a great answer for. Who do you think ends up taking him? Get your predictions in for me in the comments section of today's show. Now, the Giants are also set to work out other quarterbacks who, in theory, are not going to go round one, but some of the reporting has been insane. I don't really buy it. It doesn't make any sense. Tyler Shuck out of Louisville and Jalen Milroe out of Alabama. There was a report from Diana Rossini that a QB coach told her that they'd rather have Shuck over Cam Ward, which is frankly one of the stupidest things I've heard in my entire life. That doesn't make any sense at all. Shuck's career production is like behind Cam Ward's best season. It just like doesn't. I feel bad. I think I'm bodying Shuck. Like, he's a good day 3 prospect. He's going to be a good NFL backup QB. He does not have. It took him until he was 25 years old to be a good college QB. Like, come on. Let's be serious here. Shuck going in round 1. I genuinely do not see it at all. Like, Milroe, I can see it. Milroe is run fast, throw ball far. Okay, I get that. You know, Anthony Richardson went 4. Probably shouldn't have. Milroe, I think, needs 2 years. He might actually be a running back when it's all said and done because he is a freaky athlete. But, like, at least there's the physical upside of the young developmental QB, not, he plays good play action like Tyler Shuck does. Who also, like I said, has some of the worst decision-making I've seen of, like, under pressure, just throw it up in the air. Done that multiple times. I don't like this quarterback class. I don't think it's very good. So for the Shuck, the Milroe, the Dart buzz we'll get to here, I am confused by it. It reminds me of 2023 when Kenny Pickett, or 2022, whatever year it was, Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis and Desmond Hall, Matt Corral, round 1 buzz, and then one guy went in the first 2 days. Not going to be quite that extreme, but I have doubts that all these guys are actually going to go all that early. So if you have not already, hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. We will have more NFL draft coverage, including live NFL draft coverage for you right here for all 7 rounds. Then I want to get to the Saints quarterback situation here because something is fishy and something's not right with this entire situation. The background here is this. Derek Carr's 2025 season is in doubt because of a previously unreported shoulder injury. The Saints are now in a bad quarterback spot, and they are clearly looking at quarterback options. And now there has been buzz that it was actually Derek Carr's camp that leaked the shoulder injury, that they were the ones who were sending this information out there. Diana Rossini is not in these words, but like kind of said that it might be an exaggeration of the injury severity and that Derek Carr just doesn't want to get Kirk Cousins, so he's using the injury as an excuse. What is going on in New Orleans? Something's not right here. Because how do you go months from the season into April, I know he was hurt down the stretch last year with not a shoulder injury, to being hurt right now to, maybe he misses the entire season. This almost feels like, I've seen some good conspiracy theories, the Carr camp leaked this in an effort to get a different team to trade up in front of the Saints so they can't take a QB and they have to stick with Carr longer, which is insane. If the shoulder is banged up, then his base salary was fully guaranteed. This is weird. Something doesn't add up to this story. I don't think we've heard the last of this with what the actual details are. Like, Diana said she's had a tough time finding anyone in the NFL telling her that it's actually a severe injury. Yet he might miss the entire year. This one doesn't smell right at all. So how many games does Derek Carr play in 2025? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Now, in the end, the Saints seem very likely to end up adding a QB in this year's draft because, let's be honest, Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener are not it. I have doubts that a lot of the other QBs that might be in play for them are it either, but you keep throwing darts until you get the right guy. Pun not intended. We'll talk about Jaxson Dart in a second. I don't know who that pick is. I don't know who that QB and when it ends up being. I could see them liking Jaxson Dart. I do think Jaxson Dart has a lot of the intangibles. Teams, like, I've heard really good stuff about his leadership. There is good mobility. There is good arm strength, but it is not great. Dart does not have elite level physical traits. He also is coming off a I'll call it what it is. It's a Mickey Mouse offense at Ole Miss that works wonders for the college ranks, but when he had to do like actual, regular, normal drop back stuff that wasn't deep shots and play action and all kinds of schemed up easy stuff, it honestly wasn't good. Dart, I don't think should sniff round 1. But a lot of the buzz of late is that he very well might. There's even been some he goes before Shedeur Sanders buzz, which I just don't really get it. So draft night, round 1, round 2, about to be super interesting. It is mailbag time here on NFL Daily. 2 ways to get on the show. Use hashtag NFL. It can be just kind of generic comments too. If you've got thoughts, etc., whatever, we can certainly put those up as well if there's a take you have or whatever. Get your questions in via hashtag NFL, or if you want to guarantee that you get on, do what MA Football guy, a.k.a. Dadbod, did with his Super Chat. Get your questions in via hashtag NFL or Super Chat to skip the line. I'll sip some water. We do need more questions, by the way. "10 minutes of talking dries out my mouth, apparently." Phrasing, but there's no non-dirty way to say that. It is impossible. So, sorry, not sorry, I guess, in the end. Get your questions in via hashtag NFL, or you can skip that line as mentioned by Super Chatting. We will feature MA Football Guys Super Chat, I should say, on the mailbag as well. Get them in, hashtag NFL or Super Chat. Now, as a reminder, folks, we will be live for the 2025 NFL Draft, round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all NFL, all the time, all the picks. We will not skip over picks or has mentioned them for 5 seconds. We will actually discuss all the players who get drafted. No commercials either. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Let's begin with a Super Chat from MA Football Guy, a.k.a. Dadbod in the house. Sure to the Giants or the Steelers? I am very curious with the Giants in particular at 3. How much ownership meddling / influence do we get there? Because that could be, oftentimes QB picks are an ownership pick too, because they get final say on those always. I'm curious how that plays out. Pittsburgh at 21 feels like his floor, but I don't know if he gets there. And if he does get past 15, could a team like the Browns or Giants, somebody else, trade back up from round 2 into round 1 to secure him? I am very curious how that plays out come draft. I think it's one of the biggest things to watch. Wolfpack, Carolina to trade back with Pittsburgh and draft James Pierce Jr. Biggest issue with, I think Carolina in general, by the way, I think they would love to trade down. They would love for a QB team to come up and give them assets to slide back. Pittsburgh has no second-round pick. They'd have to move their first next year, plus extra assets. Makes it kind of tricky in the end. But Carolina would love to move down. Now, James Pierce's character stuff there's been questions of what makes him tick, how motivated is he? I've heard some negative reviews allegedly from the Tennessee coaching staff too. That all makes him a dicey round 1 pick, but I think in general, trade down, extra assets, take an edge. I think that's close to the ideal outcome for Carolina. Jordan, with Ramsey on the move, Tyreek 2, are the Dolphins cooked? So 2 different questions. Publicly, at least, Miami saying they do not want to trade away Jalen Ramsey. Publicly. They made that pretty clear at the press conference with Chris Greer saying, if team wants to give us 2 firsts, sure. Which obviously not going to get that at all. Could just be posturing, who's to say, because the Ramsey stuff is already out there now. They probably don't want to have extra stuff leak in the end. As for if they are cooked, I'm not going to say they're cooked yet, but the vibes are bad. They're going to have a lot of dead money on the books this year. They're kind of resetting their finances at least. They have big holes at defensive line, at edge, at kind of linebacker, but they could probably survive there, I guess. Corner, especially now once they trade Jalen Ramsey. Safety, the O-line needs help. They don't have the assets right now. It kind of puts them in a bad spot. So predictions. Will the Dolphins end up trading Tyreek Hill this offseason? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Bob Smith, what's up with Brock Purdy? Will he sign? I think so. The timing, there's not a lot else that would really happen in the quarterback market, I don't believe, that would lead to the Purdy market changing drastically. The Niners' overall history normally indicates a later signing. That for these types of big contracts, they do them late. Often with some drama. Joey Bosa had drama with his. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, all these big deals end up having some non-smoothness as it relates to the 49ers. So I think that deal gets done, but it might be closer to training camp when it gets done. From Andy, Tom, in your opinion, who's potential first-round bust and late-round sleeper? Oh, that's a fun question. Early-round busts that give me the most pause, I'm going to leave quarterbacks out of this. That just seems unfair to me. I think some of the biggest, boom-bust prospects in round one are those edges. Shamar Stewart and Mykel Williams haven't had the production, but they're going to be early-round draft picks. If, a guy like Will Campbell can't overcome the arm length, that's going to be a real issue. I think in general with this class, I feel great about the top three. Hunter, Carter, Genty. I don't know, and I got Graham as my fourth. I don't know who my fifth best prospect is. Is it Will Campbell, Armand Membu, Tyler Warren, Mike Green, T-Mac, Will Johnson, Jahdae Barron? It's not, somebody has to be your fifth and sixth and seventh best prospects, and in a normal class, they're probably 13, 14, 15. That kind of makes it dicey from the value perspective that I think is going to lead to some misses in round one. There are a lot of guys in this year's class that were really good in 2023 and not as good this year. Will Johnson. Michael Williams is a traits best prospect. Shamar Stewart could be great or could be terrible. I think there's a lot of round one bust potential this year. My favorite sleeper, though, I think he probably goes early day three, is Antoine Powell-Ryland, who had great production and great athletic testing, and nobody cares about him. That is a top 75 player for me that is bordering on top 50 that I think might end up going outside the top 100. Steve, does the Browns adding Flacco mean no more Kirk Cousins? Maybe. I don't know what the Browns quarterback plan is, to be quite honest. Because right now it's Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco. And that's not a real plan. That is a plan if they are okay being terrible this upcoming season. That is a plan to, can we get a top 3 pick again next year? That's what that plan is. Are they going to take Shedeur at 2? Are they going to be a not good quarterback class taking a quarterback on day 2 team? I don't really know what they're doing. I would honestly just feel better if they straight up didn't take a QB at all and then went out and traded for Kirk Cousins after the draft ended. I would feel better about that. I don't feel great about it, but it's a lot better than Flacco and Pickett. So I don't know what happens with Kirk Cousins. Maybe he would have been better off being a bit more of a jerk and try to force his way out. Where will Kirk Cousins play in 2025? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Mike Nintendo Master, will the Raiders straight up to get their guy? I could see them moving up in round 2. If there is a corner or a receiver or a back that slides that they desperately want, I could see them jumping up in the back end of round 1. But if they're picking at 6, their main needs are running back, wide receiver, and corner. I think that's the main round 1 picks that they would address. They don't have to move up. They can sit and pick at 6. I don't think they have to move up at all in the first round. Today's show is made possible by Game Time with killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. They make getting tickets faster and easier, even for those hard-to-get playoff seats. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. You can get up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for not just sports, but concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Download the Game Time app today, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. The Game Time guarantee is this: if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So go download the Game Time app today, create your account, and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off that first purchase. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. DC times Viper. What team is most likely to trade for Jalen Ramsey? What is his value? And this is the sign they want to draft Will Johnson. Kind of broke this down in depth on our rumors video on this on Tuesday. I think there's be plenty of interest there. I think if the Raiders just want to go try to win now with Geno as the QB and Pete Carroll, I think the Raiders are a super fun fit. I think you're looking at early day 3 draft value, late day 2. That's just at this age, that's what it is. I don't think it's a sign the Dolphins want to draft Will Johnson. I think they had cornerback interest already. This just amplifies it for Miami. From Christian, where do you think Asante Samuel Jr. will land? Dallas, 49ers, the Dolphins? I think the Dolphins stand out now. With the Ramsey situation, they probably can't find 2 starters or corner. They needed 1, and they need 2 with Ramsey. I think that's a really fun fit. Schematically, we'll see. Dallas, I would love if they hit arm length guys. The closer we get to the draft, the more likely it is he waits until afterwards and tries to get a little bit more money in the end. From TFL Productions. Is that pass rusher out of Marshall, that's Mike Green, really a first-round pick? If so, where does he go? I think so. I think he's really good. He is my edge 2 in this class. Others will have him as low as edge 5. Because, again, edge 2 versus edge 5, not a big gap there with how you count Jalen Walker and Shamar Stewart and Michael Williams too. Biggest thing for him is, how does he handle off-the-field questions that are valid around him? Did it well at the Combine. Don't know how NFL teams feel about it. They feel fine. He could go 8 to 18, 25. That range is – have a lot of edges going that 20-inch picks. Bobby, hear me out. Excuse me. Daniel Jones wins the job and Colts trade Anthony Richardson. If that happens, I feel like that regime is fired. If you spend a 4th overall pick on a QB and he can't beat out Daniel Jones – oh boy, the vibes are bad in Indy at that point. So I hope that does not happen. It needs to be Richardson, but it doesn't seem to be in very good shape right now. So name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Could be A-Rich, could be somebody else altogether. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Justice. Thoughts on Jonah Monheim as a day 3 pick for the Cowboys? I'll mention just him in general here. This is a USC interior offensive lineman, 6'4.5", 303, extremely short arms. The best he measured was at his pro day at 30.5 inches there. At that length, you're looking at really probably center only, even though he played every spot on the offensive line at some point. He had 18 starts at right tackle, 12 at left tackle. I guess he actually didn't play left guard, but if you played the other 4, you can be fine there. And he's a solid athlete overall. Didn't test, which is kind of a red flag, but that length is so concerning. And overall was okay at center for USC. I got him in the 7th round. I think someone will take a shot at him in kind of a bad center class overall, but I think he's a backup in the NFL. DC times Viper. What is Lavi's future with the Saints? If they're in their bad cap spot, they can afford to extend him, or will they seek a trade? The Saints are in such a unique cap spot that they actually have to keep paying people. The way the NFL works is you got to spend cash. They do all these restructures to reduce their cap hit. They are not a high cash spending team overall because they've done so many restructures and there's so much extra money kind of out there at the moment. They will, as long as he stays healthy, I think they'll pay Chris Olave. Because they do have a lot of big contracts on the books in the near future. Cam Jordan's coming off the books. Marshall Lamb will be off the books too soon. They've got a lot of money coming off in the not-too-distant future. If they wanted to, they could simply reset in a year. Maybe 2 in their unique situation of getting a bunch of bad money off the books and then just having a new young team. That is what would be the smart thing to do. Will they do that? I don't know, but I do think they're going to pay Chris Olave. At some point, they'll be off the Derek Carr contract, and they're not paying a lot of guys big money overall. So, yeah, I think that deal will get done. Austin Johnson, we need a Chat Sports Discord server. But, yeah, but then someone has to manage it, and I don't really want to do that, and it seems like a disaster waiting to happen overall. But I get the idea behind it, so thank you, Austin. But how many rounds of the NFL Draft will you watch? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. How many rounds? We, of course, will be live for all 7 of them. Let me know in the comments how many rounds of the NFL Draft you plan on watching. See if you've got any more NFL news yet. I doubt it. No, just some of the official signings. Been almost a week and still don't have the Sadiq Charles details for the Cowboys. That's going to be 1 year vet minimum with, $300,000, $75,000 guaranteed. That's what it'll end up being. All right, how many rounds? 3. Jim Panson says the only correct answer, all of them. That's my guy. I love that. Keep the comments coming. And we will get into my latest NFL mock draft here, getting going right now. Before we dive into today's NFL mock draft, first filmed live on Chat Sports and posted over there too, how many round 1 trades do you think end up happening this year? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Now, coming up, I have another 2025 NFL mock draft. This one, though, because I wanted to have fun here and get wild with it, has a bunch of trades, especially in the back half of round 1. Let's get into it. No trade at number 1. Cam Ward, the pick to the Tennessee Titans. This one pretty much feels set in stone at this point. Number 2, Travis Hunter, the athlete out of Colorado, to the Browns. A lot of buzz on this one. A lot of buzz on Abdul Carter going number 3 to the Giants. It's also mid-April. Sometimes that buzz is not reliable, so we'll see how it all plays out. If it plays out this way, I think the Patriots take Will Campbell at 4. I think that one feels they need a left tackle. He's got the mindset Mike Vrabel loves. The arm length and the wingspan in particular are very valid concerns, though. Mason Graham goes to Jacksonville at 5. Trent Baalke can now take some Michigan player, or now that Baalke's gone, Jacksonville can take some Michigan players. Ashton Jeanty goes 6. This is fairly chalky so far, if I'm being honest. Jeanty to 6 to the Raiders, pair with Geno Smith, like that fit with what Pete Carroll will do. Armand Membu at 7. Plug him in at right tackle, pair him with Olu Fashanu long term. Building out the offensive line makes a ton of sense for the Jets. I think Jalen Walker, the edge linebacker hybrid, is a really good fit in Carolina. They can kind of do some Frankie Luvo stuff with him. I think that is a logical landing spot for Walker. So it's chalky to the first 8. Let's get weird with it. What if the Saints go crazy? Because before the Derek Carr, they've been buzzed like, oh, yeah, they like Jaxson Dart. And of late, I'm not sure how much I buy it, but we'll do it for today for the funness of it. Hey, this Jaxson Dart could go before Shedeur Sanders. Todd McShay's mentioned that. I don't get that, frankly. I think that's kind of a weird path. But the Saints are a bit of a wild card at 9 this year. Now, they're the betting favorites for Shedeur Sanders. Wouldn't be a shock if he went 9 or even earlier. Who goes first? I guess Dart at 9 is your Michael Penix moment in this year's draft, right? JD for Jaxson Dart, SS for Shedeur Sanders. It is the pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, let me know in the comments, JD or SS. A little bit more chalky here. Tyler Warren to the Bears. Ben Johnson to do a bunch of 2 tight end personnel set. The wild card was a Marion Hampton, by the way, but I didn't go that. I couldn't do back-to-back wild card picks in a row. Mike Green, 11 to the 49ers, giving them an actual secondary pass rusher beyond Bosa. Tedero McMillan out of Arizona to the Dallas Cowboys at 12. With the Jalen Ramsey stuff, Jahdae Barron out of Texas at 13 to the Miami Dolphins. I wonder if Barron actually ends up going before Will Johnson, since there's still going to be valid questions about Johnson's speed since he did not run a 40, and that was the concern going in. Indy then takes Colston Loveland, number 14, out of Indianapolis. Tight end to really kind of solidify that spot that they had bad production at last year. And then we have our first trade, and it is a doozy. How about the Bills stay all in, and they give up multiple assets, a second and a fourth, to jump all the way up to 30, and it is almost not enough for the Bills to move up, but we'll treat it as a lighter trade down scenario. Falcons, who are light on draft picks, get extra ones. The Bills at 15 jump up and take Will Johnson out of Michigan. I think they'd only do it for a premium player, and I think Will Johnson, for some teams, is going to be that premium type of player. I think that'd be a really fun addition for Buffalo overall, and I think would help them take that next step forward to try to get over the hump in the AFC. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. They make getting tickets faster and easier, even for hard-to-get playoff seats. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. Tickets on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. You can get last-minute deals up to 60% off those last tickets, not just for sports like NBA, but baseball, football once that season kind of comes back around, but also concerts, comedy, theater, everything else in between by using the Game Time app. That lowest price guarantee is this. If you find tickets in the same section or section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So what are you waiting for? Go download the Game Time app today, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Terms do apply. Again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, all guaranteed. Cardinals at 16. Let's give them another pass rusher to help kind of round out that room. Micah Williams, I think, actually fits really well with what the Eagles, or the former Eagles DC Jonathan Gannon, likes to do up front. I think he goes somewhere in this range, in that like 11 to 18ish, 25 or 23 the latest range. Makes a lot of sense there. Bengals take Jihad Campbell, the linebacker out of Iowa. I think the 17 to 20 range just makes a lot of sense for Jihad Campbell as a fit. Gray Zabel was not my preferred interior offense lineman. That's actually Tyler Booker, who I didn't have going in this round one mock draft. He fell. But his play style was kind of the move offensive lineman, and that zone blocking scheme fits a lot better for Seattle. Tampa would have taken Jihad Campbell at 19. He's off the board. Instead, they trade down. They get a 2, a 3, and a future 4 in what might be a buyer's market this year in the NFL draft for the Giants to come all the way back up into round 1 and take Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback out of Colorado, at 19 overall. Some Giants fans would love it. Some of them would hate it. The real question for me is, I think at this point, the over-under at quarterbacks in round 1 is probably 3.5 now. With Shedeur and Cam Ward and probably Jaxson Dart. I refuse to buy Tyler Shuck, Jalen Milroe hype. Over or under 3.5 QBs in round 1. O for over, U for under. I almost had Denver trade down here, but Marion Hampton's there, so they'll just stick and pick and add a damn good back to help out Sean Payton's offense. I love the fit of Derek Harmon out of Oregon for Pittsburgh. He could also he could be a surprise top 12 pick this year. That wouldn't be actually a shocker to me. I think it might be for some, but I think he could go super early. Love the Matthew Golden fit there for the Chargers. If there was a team that I thought could move up to 20 and 21, I would have had them jump the Chargers for Golden, but I just didn't find the right fit in the end. Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, that is a Packers pick. Through and through, that man is a Green Bay Packer type of player. I think that's a really good scheme, personnel, draft archetype fit for Green Bay. Vikings at 24, I mean, they want to trade down. They are so light on draft capital. And they have made in-draft trades with their division rival before. A third-round pick works out really good trade value-wise. Lions come up, and they're thinking ahead here. They're thinking long-term left tackle with Kelvin Banks out of Texas. Not a very commonly mock draft pick that I have seen. Taylor Decker is getting up there in age. He was a 2016 first-round pick. I don't know how much longer he's going to play for this particular team. He only is going to turn 31, but at some point they're going to start making some financial decisions up front along that offensive line. You could plug him in at left guard or right guard short-term too with Graham Gaskell getting up there at age, but I think long-term left tackle option there for the Detroit Lions. Kenneth Grant, I am a fan of. Not everyone is, understandably so. Texans don't have a true disruptive nose tackle. I think Kenneth Grant could be that guy. I'm a fan of that fit. Maxwell Harrison, I actually could see one happening for real on draft night too. I think there's good value there. Back-to-back safeties here. Nick Emenwari out of South Carolina to the Ravens, giving them really fun chess piece in the back end. And the Vikings take Malachi Starks, a safety out of Minnesota. Hopefully better than the last hit that they took out of Minnesota in round 1 after trading down with the Lions. Hopefully that I didn't mean to make that traumatizing for some, but I think he actually is a good fit long-term with what that defense probably wants to do with Brian Flores in the big picture. Another trade, pick 29. This one does get expensive, but it's a pretty big jump there for the Patriots to go up from 38 to 29, giving up pick 106, which is kind of far down the order, and 144, kind of a later-ish fifth-round pick. Actually, mid-fifth-round pick, I should say. Patriots jump up because they are trying to find some help at one particular spot here, which we'll get to here in just a second. But first, today's show, remember to subscribe. We have free NFL draft coverage for you guys all off season long. We will have updates on all the picks, reaction to all of it. We have you covered. Every single pick will be covered here on Chat Sports, and of course the trades that happen too. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. All right, I've got the Patriots then moving up for Emeka Egbuka. And my mindset here was they want to jump the Titans, jump the Raiders, go get a receiver. Patriots walk out of that draft early on with Emeka Egbuka to help out receiver and Will Campbell. That's a pretty good haul there for New England. So the Falcons now at third after their trade down. Donovan Ezeraku at number 30, who I think does go in round 1. Maybe could go earlier than some people even expect. I am a fan of his game. Gives me some Harold Landry vibes, college notwithstanding either. Chiefs at 31, they trade down. The 49ers, flush with extra draft picks, send the last third and the last fourth, 100, 137, and pick 43 to jump up into round 1 and get their left tackle of the future. And maybe short-term right tackle, too, in Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Injury is a question mark there for Simmons, but the Niners, I think he's a great fit for what they want to do up front, and they need to invest in those trenches. Eagles stand pat at 32, take Walter Nolan, a boom or bust player who, given the way Philadelphia tends to maximize the sliders in round 1, probably ends up being a good player for them. So the teams that out a round 1 pick, I think Carson Schwarzenegger has an outside chance of sneaking into round 1. It'd be a surprise, but I think he does go top 50. Tampa gets, I think there's a pretty big drop-off, by the way, pure off-ball linebackers after Schwarzenegger. It gets kind of thin, so they take the top one left there. James Pierce, who's got character stuff to answer for, but hasn't scared off Dan Quinn in the past with the Cowboys, and even Seattle, going back to some of those teams. James Pierce as an athletic edge rusher off the end, fits what they're searching for. The Chiefs, I think they need another defensive tackle. Tyreek Williams as a run stopper is fantastic. I don't love their run stopping group. I think there is athletic potential to be even better than that, not just a plugger in the NFL. So grade this mock draft: A, B, C, D, or F. It was unique. It was wild. It was crazy. So I get if you want to go like C for crazy, that's fine too. Get those votes in for me in the comments section of today's show. We'll get some shout outs here as well. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comments of today's video. Daniel's looking at Hampton in round 1. If he's there, that would make a lot of sense. I could also see kind of like what you're alluding to, in some combination, tackle back, round 1, round 3. depending on what the quarterback spot looks like. There's a lot of teams in a weird spot this year. Saints, Browns, Giants, Pittsburgh. It's kind of like, okay, what's your plan? What are you doing long term, short term? Kind of dicey for all those guys. So, grade the mock draft: A, B, C, D, or F. Now, we will have more NFL draft coverage for you. We're cooking up something really interesting for Thursday. Just stay tuned for that. Probably live as well. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv, and we'll see you guys back here again tomorrow.